looks like you were up in the with that kitchen area.
Yeah, it looks kind of like our headquarters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Chantel.
Hi, Rich. Hi, Mayor Tomko.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. So I'm
Good.
not used to the video thing. I was telling Nancy and Christy and Rob that usually when I now do Zoom, which I didn't know this, Rich, when we were doing everything a year ago, my 13-year-old has informed me that you don't do video, Mom. You just make sure you're present. Nobody needs to see you.
Well,
I'm like, well, don't they want to see you? I feel like that was the fun part of it.
Erin comes in, borrows my lamp off my desk, so she then turns the other lights down so she doesn't look washed out.
I know we had to, like, the lighting is always important, right?
We'll have to do a makeup call.
Hey, here, Tomko, we're live to the public. You're welcome to start the meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, this is the first meeting of the Grove Hill committee, and we are charged with coming up with some plans, the objectives, etc. And I don't believe there's any preconceived notion. I had asked CT and Craig Corse, who's their landscape architect, to come up with a preliminary concept design, but we shouldn't necessarily feel limited by that. The marching orders I gave them is we wanted to have something that captured the history of the Bancroft site, which was horticulturally and kind of green, captured the Milltown aspect of Chagrin, gave an overview of the entire village since it was the highest point in the village, and also would be low maintenance, respectful of the quiet neighborhood and of the Bancroft house, and also be low maintenance. And they came up with some very preliminary designs. I think one of the other objectives was to assure the residents in the area we weren't talking about any kind of a park that would be of any noise or attractions to kids. And I don't know if any of you, some of you I believe have seen some of those plans. So I've asked Rob to screen share those, and then I thought maybe just generally talk about that, talk about objectives for the park, when we could do that. I guess there's two overriding issues of some concern. One is the hill stability. We don't want to disturb that hill any more than we have to, number one, and obviously cost and ongoing maintenance. So with that, feel free. There's no real agenda or anything, so anybody feel free to chime in. Rob, why don't you just flash one of those up there that they can see what we were
Mayor, did you want to do the oaths of office to start off?
Oh, that's right. Christy, are you listening in?
I'm with you.
I don't have the oaths of office down here.
I'll be there in 1 minute.
Okay.
Make everybody legitimate.
Yeah, we got to do Chantel and Rich. All the rest of us are already sworn in.
Alex Jacob, maybe.
Yeah, well, he's not here, is he?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Okay, and Jacob. Excuse me. I made you run.
Your office is so organized, you don't know where to find your
Oh
stuff.
my God. When everything was in a pile, I could find it. Christy, also referred to as Mom, organized me. I'm not used to being organized. So I don't know where to look for this stuff.
Well, they have their copies, so you're just gonna have to say their name. I don't have a copy here because I sent that to them.
Okay,
So just use
Yeah.
their name and then Grove Hill Committee,
okay,
and then they're gonna send it back.
very good. All right, so you've got the oaths, and when I say I, just substitute your name, and then I'll read the oath, and you don't have to repeat it since you're all there, and then just sign it and send it in. I, and then say your name.
Rich Cochran.
Alex Chaka.
Chantel?
Alec.
Okay. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, the Charter of the Village of Chagrin Falls, and all laws of said village, and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties of Grove Hill Commission of the Village of Chagrin Falls, State of Ohio, during my continuance in said office.
If you agree, say I do.
Pardon me?
If you agree, say I do.
Yeah, if you agree, say I do.
I do.
You.
Okay, if you would sign that and then either you gave them an envelope, yeah, just mail it back to the village, or if you're in town, just drop it to the village hall, either one.
Can we date it today?
Huh?
Should we date the signed version today?
Yes, please. Okay, thanks, Christie. I'm sorry.
Perfect. No, we're good.
Okay, all right, so with that, we should now get back to business. So what I was saying is, everybody feel free to speak. There's no real agenda. And as I said, I just had some of those plans drawn up as more of a document to help in the fundraising than anything else, and just a concept document of one way that we could proceed. So Rob, if you want to put one of those up on the screen and just open it up to the floor.
Yep, give me 1 second here and I will do that.
Yeah.
Does everybody see a map in front of them now?
Yeah,
Yes.
we did before.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to get this to do what I want it to do.
Christie's on her way.
I know, no, it just takes me a second. Okay, I hit the wrong button. Share screen. And... Oh, there we go.
Yeah, and that's basically a topographical map. And as you can see, there's a rather steep slope there. And what we did was, just to give you a visual, was minimize the amount of cutting into the hill that would be necessary for, again, slope stability. Use that dirt that was excavated to fill behind the wall. There are two objectives of this: to keep any of the sitting area down beneath the line of vision from the Bancroft House, and keep the park looking up from the Bancroft House somewhat hidden, if you will, so respecting everybody's privacy. And you can see there is, let's see, a 110, there's almost a 20-foot drop in that space, and then with it cut out, that gives you a some sense of how everybody's privacy can be maintained. Rob, you want to go to the next slide?
Yep. Remove this. Does everybody have a?
Yeah, and now this isn't, this is kept to a minimum. You can see what we tried, and we've eliminated that water feature. This was one of the first designs. We were trying to pick up the water feature for the falls, the millstone, the history of the mill, but this became extremely costly. I think this estimate was back a bar napkin estimate of about $300,000. And then Rob, go to the next one. That last one that was smaller, I think.
I love the
I've
millstone.
got 6 different renderings here.
Yeah, that one, Rob, that one.
Okay.
And you can see just a different view. That still has water in it, but you can see with the topo and with the landscaping, we were rather heavily planting this again because of the history of the Bancroft with the horticulture and the greenhouses that were on the adjoining property, which was once the same. Again, we're just trying to stay with a minimalist and trying to keep the costs down. And I don't know if you've got any more, Rob, that you can show.
Oh, yeah. little more of an overhead
Oh,
view.
yeah, that's the same thing on an overview.
Okay.
That white in the bottom would be in both of these brick areas, those are all pervious pavements. So there's no runoff being generated. Everything is retained there on site. And that walk at the bottom goes over to the existing cement stairs or stone stairs, excuse me. And all right, next.
I think that might be the same one.
Yeah,
I would try.
well, it's a little different benches, but you can get the general idea. And again, there's nobody is wed to any of these designs. This is the one that we took the waterfall out of and just left the stones in. That water was costing quite a bit. We could add it if we wanted, but again, I'll just throw it open to the comment and inputs, because again, this was just a starting point of showing what could be done. There's nobody's wed to any of these designs.
Hold
I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So I walked the property the other day, and there are pink and green tags on different things. What are those?
I'm sorry, Chantel, what? I didn't understand you.
Walked the property the other day,
And there's some tags out there.
and there were pink and green tags on
Yeah.
different.
I don't know. We had some, those little flags for invisible fence for like you'd put for a dog fence. Craig and I had put some flags down where this went. It's basically a flat area, but that was done last, fall, just to give people some kind of idea of where it was going in the scale. I don't know what.
The only other activity I know up there is we may have some markers up there where the borderline fence was to be placed, and possibly they could be related to the slope stability study that's being done for the house above, although that really shouldn't extend onto the new park property, what they're looking at. But I can always take a look. We can go up there and see.
I hadn't walked the property since October, but some of these look new
Okay.
since
I haven't walked
October,
the
which I know has been a
property,
while.
Since October either, Chantel.
Yeah.
Last fall was the last time I set foot on it.
When you show that cutout of the, of it being like 20, like it's a 36 to 26 drop, when you show that drop to create this central area with benches, that doesn't naturally exist. So does that mean we're gonna have to cut that out to create it?
Yeah, there would be some cutout, but that area is relatively flat. And so the thought would be is do a wall, and the dirt you take out, you would place behind the wall, so everything would be retained on site. This is just more of a idea, rough sketch, as opposed to any kind of a working drawing. If you wanted to do some type of a wall, then you either have to cut it in and create this flatter area, or you could just do whatever you wanted to do on that flat area. The area that we looked at to do this in was relatively flat.
So the wall, while it did create an opportunity for the water feature, which doesn't seem to make financial sense, excuse me, did the wall actually create an idea of stability?
I'm sorry?
Stability. She
Stone
asked if the
wall
wall would create some sense of stability.
create some stability to the hill.
I don't know. That would be a question for Craig. I think the only thing that he had contemplated with this is dry set stone. And again, that is a concern, stability. So, we'd have to look at that. I think the way this was done was a very little cutback into the existing hill. I want to say 2 or 3 feet, and then the use of that material would be piled behind where the wall was going to go to create, somewhat of a sense of a grotto. But again, I'll defer to Craig because this is his drawing and his design, not mine.
I do love all the idea of like bulbs being planted because it could be planned to make it, throughout the seasons.
I'm sorry?
If those are bulbs that are planted instead of annuals, I think that'd be really nice, like perennials instead of annuals.
Yeah, that's kind of what we thought. The more perennials we can use, the better. But there's no problem with putting some annuals in there. And again, I've got a certain awareness of annual maintenance, and I wanted something that would be as low maintenance in the future, so that future villages, we weren't passing a problem on to them that they could work with.
What about things like azaleas, rhododendrons?
Azaleas,
ground-
mountain laurel, rhododendron,
Yeah,
all of that are things.
flowering shrubs. Some
Yeah,
of those,
exactly,
the types
Nancy.
of-
I think Craig just put colored things in here. You could certainly use bulb plants you get some color from the spring. What we strive to do when we do this is get something that blooms throughout the year. Spring flowers are nice, but then you're just looking at ground cover all year. So you got to have a mix of stuff in there, the spring, the summer, and there's some things like New York aster and that blooms in the fall. So it would be a mix of color. That's what everybody's objective is. And the flowering shrubs, again, planting flowering shrubs behind the wall is also another way to get some privacy in there.
Are there any bricks left from when some of the brick roads were pulled up? I know we had a few here for years and we repurposed them, but
Yeah.
like when Summit was pulled up, does the village have any bricks that could be repurposed?
We do have a lot of street brick from North Street.
Yeah, we could certainly use those, and that would be a good use for them because, again, we're trying to tie everything together, the historic of the village, the historic of the site, and create a somewhat of a scenic vista.
Yeah, I think the old brick would be a better look.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that this is just a standard they pulled and just to flip down there, but the old brick would be nice. But I got to caution that old brick is somewhat rounded on the surface, so it's not the best of surface to walk on, but I would like to use the old brick if we could.
So about how far is this down from the property line between this and the residence?
The residence?
Well, the property line. How far
The
down is it?
property line is the fence,
Right.
and I don't think we've got the fence drawn in here. Rich, I think it's around that 1,000 foot on the topo. Does that look right to you about where the fence property line is? Just to give some sense of what we're talking about. I think.
Yeah, I think it's true. Alex probably knows better than I do. It's between those. I agree with Rob. I think it's between those two topo lines.
Yeah, that. I think. Again, we don't have engineered drawing, but this is where we think it is for purposes of talking.
So, if that's roughly split, I'm looking at roughly the distance from where Summit Street is to Cottage, and roughly the halfway point is somewhere right around here. Maybe a little bit to the right of my line, but right in there.
And it ended up not being split down the middle. It's slightly less land on the park side.
Okay, then that would probably be perfect.
I think that's where you are, yeah. Alex, what do you think?
That's correct. The park ended up with smaller acreage, so I'd say the line is close to where you have it, Rob, in the red, maybe even a little bit south.
Yeah. Okay.
Bill, I think, I think these plans are great. I'm sure we and others are going to refine them with some public input as well.
Oh,
I guess-
yeah, there's got to be public input, and nobody's wed to these plans. Craig just threw them together, I imagine, with stock images. So again, there's, an infinite amount of modification possible.
Yeah, I guess our standpoint is we want to help and contribute, but we want you to know that we're going to be very deferential to the wishes of the village and the residents of the village. What we're really interested in is figuring out, there might be a little bit of donor recognition that's needed. I think, Chantel, we promised some along the stairs, didn't we?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
I'm thinking the stairs or even Rich, those benches, at one point we saw some that were solid stone that maybe presented the opportunity to have in the stone.
We could easily do that, Chantel. I think, again, Craig just picked up stock images and dropped them in here.
Yeah.
I do think that's important.
Yeah. So my team will get a list of what was requested to this committee ASAP. I should have actually thought of that before, but I didn't.
Yeah, and I should have thought to have Craig on this, and I didn't. So, matter of fact, I was so busy, Christy hadn't called me and told me it was 2:00. I would have forgotten about the meeting. One other thing I should say, there's an awful lot of noxious invasive species around this park area: multifloral rose, privet, buckthorn. So catch as catch can. We're going to want to slowly start eliminating that before we do any construction, because particularly that multifloral rose and the privet has got big thorns on it.
Yep. And then, Bill, the other thing we wanted to make sure we talked about is signage, in particular related to Western Reserve Land Conservancy's role in the project.
Yeah.
This is something our board has really pushed me on of late, is making sure there's good signage showing the good work we've done. So
Yeah.
I don't have a proposal for you guys today, but I just wanted to let everyone know our board has pushed us on that issue. So we'd like to get clarity on that before
All right,
construction.
we can certainly address it. One thing I forgot to say, if you look right on that Cottage Street border, there are some dead and almost dead large pines that I think will have to be removed as a safety matter. I didn't want anyone thinking we were just cutting down trees. We're just going to take out the dead for now, and the ones that would be, yeah, right there. There's a couple dead ones in there that, again, that everybody can see once they leaf out where we're talking about. I think that it's only the pines that are dead.
Yeah.
There's a picture the Historic Society has of about when the WPA put in the wall, and those pines were quite small then, I would guess 4 or 5 years old. That was 1938. So they're about 100 years old, and that's about the life expectancy of some of those. So just FYI.
When you guys make those decisions, who does that? Is that the village?
Yeah.
So I would say there might be some more higher up, even though Rich knows
Yeah,
how
I
much
know.
I
was
love
more
my
concerned
spring
about-
predators that come in. But when I walked it the other day, there's some of those trees further up that I know they nest in, but they are not looking very healthy.
Yeah, well,
They're overgrown.
We'll look at all of them on the site, and anything that needs to be removed for
Craig Corse is walking the property, the Bancroft property now, but the one that's privately owned, and with the owner, and he wants to remove some of those dead and dying trees. So we've cautioned him about taking off too much or too long, and so they're going to walk that property on Friday, Chantel.
Darn it! Anyway, I'm not going to be here to go find them.
Oh,
I have a question. I have a question about the fence.
yes.
Who's picking that out, the design of it? Or is it purchased already?
It hasn't been purchased yet. We just planned that out. I know we had a monetary restriction on it.
Right, I saw that a maximum of $8,000.
Yeah. I haven't got into that for a while yet, so we can talk about that further.
Yeah, I think that's something that, we can definitely talk about.
Mhm.
We had originally planned on cast aluminum black. 'Cause it would,
Yeah, I
it would-
think I do.
That's my recollection too, Rich.
yeah. But we can change that. This committee can change that decision. I'd have to look at the contract. Alex, do you remember, was it, I don't think we said 8,000. We said the Land Conservancy's commitment was 8,000, right?
I don't
I don't think
remember,
so.
Rich. I
think-
just don't remember.
I think the village, I think that was the village portion of that was capped at 8,000. I think the original.
That's right.
The original request was 10, the village had offered 6, and then we compromised at 8.
That's
That
right.
makes sense. Thank you.
One more quick question. It looks like when I walked the property and saw where you guys had put the flags up, or someone had put the flags up, it feels like it's more like a rectangle. Does that seem like a fair description?
It seems like what, Chantel?
Like the property for the park is a bit of a rectangle, like a long rectangle going east to west.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
So when you show this pocket park zone, is there the ability to do a small trail that goes further into the rectangle heading west? Or
Yes.
you're trying to keep it just
Yes.
that little
We,
simple-
we had that in one of the earlier drawings, and it just didn't survive to this schematic, but that's actually what Craig had done. The adjoining property owner immediately to the west of this Bancroft property, there was a little drive where they took up, where Vitt took up the machines to drill. Yeah, like that, Rob. No, it goes the other way, down to Cottage Street.
Oh, okay, loops down.
Yeah, that, we had done that, and then, yes, like Rob just did the last. We had done that, we thought of doing that, and then we kind of went back and forth because we didn't know if you wanted to encourage people to go up to Cottage Street where the residential was, or if you wanted to keep them to this park. But that's not a costly item, and that could easily be added.
Is there a way to make it a loop? Like, could it be?
Yeah, you
you're
could do
doing
that.
like a
But
little
again,
circle?
it gets fairly steep. If you look at that topo from where that wall is, it goes up probably 15 feet to around the fence. So it can be done, but we'd have to lay it out. But again, that's not anything that we're opposed to.
And would the access to the area be
The
ADA
primary
compliant?
access will be
Right
off
now,
those
the-
stone stairs that the WPA put in. Right there, Rob. Thank you.
So there's no way to bring like a stroller or a wheelchair?
Well, that's what Craig thought with the walkway that you had just asked about. You'd have to do it there, and yes, you could do that. You could put a ramp down to Cottage Street and then a gradual walking trail up. No, you can't do that, Rob. You have to go to the all the way to the west.
Okay.
That's where you have to put the ramp if you want to do it, because you've got a rather steep retaining wall down there. And again, we're pretty reluctant to cut into this hill too many places that we don't have to, because we simply don't know how stable it is. The property owner is going to have to do some additional borings over and above what Vic did. But the answer to your question is yes. The most natural place to put it would be to the west of the property line. You'd have to walk up Cottage Street, and then turn to your right, and then come back that loop if you wanted to take a wheeled vehicle.
We would strongly support that if it's financially possible to have ADA access would be wonderful, but I realize it's a tricky site and it might be expensive, so.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong, Rich, with doing phase 1, phase 2 either.
Right.
So that was thought about, Chantel, and yes, it is possible to do, but it's going to be tricky. It can be done.
Chantel, do you think the neighborhood would like that feature?
She's muted, Chantel.
Hey, hold on, the dogs. I'd be very willing to talk to them about it. I agree. Guys. I'll have to respond later.
That's all right. I think everybody in this call probably has dogs.
Yeah, Chantel, you can use the chat feature if you can't talk.
My dog does the same thing on Zoom. When my dog hears people on Zoom, she freaks out because she thinks someone's in the house.
Oh, God.
My guess is she's putting her in the garage and she'll be right back. I know Chantel very well.
Well, everybody can't have a perfect dog like Jack. He's sleeping behind me.
Someone's delivering something, and so they are excited. Okay, can you ask me the question again? I'm sorry.
I just wondered how you felt the neighbors on Cottage and that whole area would feel about having that ADA loop off of Cottage Street. I would think they would like it, but I don't know for sure.
I know it's a sensitive topic for a lot of my neighbors, but I also think that if you're going to create a park that potentially young families and anybody that has a wheeled and like mobility experience could not access, I don't know. I just think that this is like a nice opportunity, a great view of our village. So I'm very willing to talk to people about it.
And I think it's nice too, you mentioned strollers, like that'd be so wonderful if you're walking your baby, you could get up there.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'm seeing
it's-
this as
it's
like
not an issue, guys.
young kid playdate central.
Yeah, we'll just have to incorporate that in the design. But the easiest place to put it with the least earth moving is to the west. You'll see when you walk it, Chantel, what I'm talking about. It's easier to look at it. And when the weather is getting warmer here, maybe the next meeting ought to be on site.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
That'd be perfect. Do we want to address the rezoning concept?
Oh, thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
One thing that the committee needs to make a recommendation on is the appropriate zoning. Because right now, this property is zoned single-family residential. And I guess the two options that we discussed was zoning it parks. And in theory, as Nancy, you can do a lot of things with a park designation. The other thing was to zone it conservation district with just this passive little park and walking trail, which is much more restrictive. And this, again, to me, in my way of thinking, is more what would make the neighbors happy because, well, I can't imagine anybody in their right minds doing it. If it was zoned park, somebody in the future could put some playground equipment up there. If it was zoned conservation, they couldn't. They could always change the zoning, but that creates its own problem. So I think we would like some input from the committee as to what you think the appropriate zoning is, because I think it should be changed from single family residential.
Well, planning and zoning recommended rezoning it to conservation district. And I took a look at the deed today. I had a copy of it, and the deed restrictions really lend themselves more to conservation district than than our park
That's
district.
fine. Nobody's getting any argument. I think everybody felt it should be conservation, but I mean, that's a decision I wanted to have the committee's input on. I agree with you, Nancy.
I had sent some photos to Nancy a while ago. Not that I wanted to put playground equipment there, but more of like natural feature things like
Yeah,
cut, like the idea of like the cut logs where the kids can jump for a log from one log to the other. I don't know what the liability of those kind of things are.
No,
I don't want to put
pretty
playground
much,
equipment
you
there,
pretty
but
much
maybe
don't
just
have
some
to be concerned with
active.
liability unless you've done something egregious, like, for example, didn't have a grounded electrical outlet and somebody got electrocuted. You got liability for that. But natural things, you don't have any liability for. But I again, that the committee could decide what they wanted. I was just throwing out ideas.
So,
So conservation doesn't make it impossible to create interactive things that are organic.
No, I don't think so. I would have to look at our definitions under Nancy, you may know.
I'm looking at, I've got it right in front of me now.
well, actually, probably the conservation district is less restrictive than the deed restrictions, at least the way I was reading the deed restrictions. So
I can let everyone know what the conservation district allows. As the main use, it allows forestry, hiking trails, boardwalks, and footpaths, forest preserves, wildlife habitats, fishing and fish breeding habitats, observation stations and interpretive displays, and shelters or storage areas. And then accessory uses are just lighting, fences, sanitation, and off-street parking. So it doesn't specifically say anything regarding recreation other than the hiking trails, boardwalks, and footpaths are the only man-made style, and shelters or storage areas. And those are the uses that are allowed in conservation.
I did kind of think it'd be fun for when this does open, to see if Molly Gebler would maybe do one of her storyboards, her little story walks for the kickoff. So as long as we can't not do that and we are allowed to do maybe some
I don't think there's any problem with a story walk, Chantel.
That would relate to the walking path.
Yeah, that's,
Great.
I mean, that's, a very, very, very temporary thing. And we're not going to wreck, permanent stuff in there. So I don't really see a great deal of problem.
Yep.
I think
Go ahead, Alex. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, to Nancy's point, the deed restriction does seem to be a little bit more restrictive. So I think everybody should take a look at that. And we'd be happy to share that for everybody if it's not easily accessible for you. So just everything that everybody's been talking about seems like it's still in line with the deed restriction. So I think that it doesn't necessarily create conflict. But to the general question of whether it's conservation or park, it feels like the deed restriction is more restricted than either of those. So I don't know that matters all that much, but it feels more in line with conservation.
Yeah.
Are you looking for us to do a vote on that right now, just so we know?
No, I mean, I think we don't have to do anything right now. The sense I'm hearing is it ought to be conservation. But again, we don't have to do a vote now. Do you agree, Nancy?
well, except it's still on the table at planning and zoning. We're gathering it to do some more zoning amendments to send over to council. So
Why don't you put it on then and to do it as conservation? Is anybody opposed to conservation?
No.
No? Go ahead and do that, Nancy.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're planning to send it to council after the April meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
Maybe
Yeah,
the March
I
meeting, I
had
think.
sort of forgotten about that.
Yeah.
When should we meet next? And, if we pushed it into maybe latter part of April, and meet on site, I think might be good. And, Craig ought to be there. And, do you want me to have anything done beforehand? And what do you, think ought to be the agenda for an April meeting?
I think I won't try to, I will make sure we review whatever major donors requested.
That's
And
fine.
it was a modest amount of recognition. But there were some who did request it. So we'll make sure we give you an inventory of that. We can discuss it on site then, and make some final decisions. And then the other thing we'd love to participate in all the discussion, obviously, including, if ADA is possible. But we do want to look at where signage locations and sizes could go as well.
Yeah. And again, I think that's the main reason for meeting there, because if we want to look at any type of ADA access, it's going to have to be best looked at and walking it than, just talking about it, looking at a topo.
Yeah.
And do you want me to have for this next meeting some those little like dog fence flags put around where we're talking about this sitting area wall or other things? What's the sense of what do you want done before the next meeting?
I think that would be helpful as a visual.
Pardon me?
I think it would be helpful as a visual if we could either like we place it while we're there walking the property, or it's already there and then we discuss what's already existing in the plan.
I'm not sure I'm following you. I'm not objecting, but I'm not sure I understand completely what you're saying.
So yes, I think it would be helpful if either there are flags that are posted that then we can have as talking points, or if while we walk the property, we're placing things as we walk the property with Craig. Is it Craig is the one that you have designing it?
I think maybe what the best thing might be, Chantel, if we place the flags before, because these things, the dog fence, anybody can move them. And if we don't like where they're placed, we could move them. But we'll take a look, particularly that path. I want to again, disturb the hill the least, and while achieving that. And so maybe we mark that wall and take it slow on it, because again, I'm worried about these hills.
Well, yes, to know where that fence is going to be.
I think the fence
I'm
is marked.
curious, and as a neighbor, I would like to know, because I feel like it keeps changing in its location a bit. So I would like to know also.
I think the fence is marked, Chantel.
It is marked. It is marked.
Yeah. So I think that's the one thing that's marked and known. What type of fence, I don't know. We made a financial contribution, and we told him that he needed to, that's the owner of the Bancroft house, needed to go to architecture review, I believe. I don't know, Nancy, isn't that the rule if he wants to do a fence or something?
Yeah, usually you have to take a fence to architecture board.
Yeah.
But I thought that was the village fence.
No, I thought we were making a financial contribution, and he was on his own with what he wanted. I mean, if he wanted to go to Finelli Ironworks and do
That's what I would want, is Finelli. Yeah.
And he's certainly free to do that, but I looked at the $6,000 to $8,000 number, and we compromised on the 8. Was the cost of the not the cast aluminum fence.
Yeah.
Upgrades to that would be on his nickel, and we told him he needed to go to ARB. So, I mean, until he locks in on what he wants to do, that's where we stand on this.
Okay.
I'll review that and I'll let everybody on the committee know.
Okay, that would be good. And I think the signage, it would be helpful to know where Conservancy want, what signs they want and where they'd like them. And
Yeah.
we can place those at the meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess, I don't know, my feeling anyways, they should be really nice signs, like kind of like the historic marker type signs.
Yes.
Yeah, just throw one thing out, nothing to decide and talk about now, but supposedly there's a time capsule buried in that WPA wall behind the 1938 WPA. One thing I talked to John Boroso about is when this is all done, the quote unquote grand opening of maybe having Sheffield Monument come up and pull that panel out and open the time capsule, and then re-put another time capsule of all of the work that went into saving this and stick it back there with an idea of opening it again in another 80 or 100 years.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's what we thought. So I guess one thing we have to decide what time for the next meeting, or what date for the next meeting. And as I suppose time, and we ought to have 2 dates in case the date we pick it's pouring rain, because April showers have been known to occur. And I don't think anybody wants to walk this in the rain. So, throw that open to discussion. I got to be here every day, so it really doesn't make any difference to me. Same with Rob. Yep.
Bill, why don't you throw out a couple dates in April that you think would be good, and I'll check my calendar in real time.
Okay, we'll do that. I'm thinking the 3rd or 4th week. I'm just trying to get it warm enough that, we're not, shivering and other things. We can spend time there. Is that?
Yeah.
What about around Earth Day?
Oh, that's the 22nd, isn't it?
Impressive.
What is Earth Day? The 22nd?
Usually.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking it's the 3rd week in April. I'm hoping it will be kind of nice at some point that week.
Yeah. All right. The week of the 22nd. All right. I'll shoot a couple of dates. I'll find out when Craig can do it, and that'll give us time to get things marked and everything. So that sounds good. And morning or afternoon?
Either one's okay with me.
Either one's okay with me. What about Nancy and Chantel?
Yeah, either time is good.
I'll make it
Chantel,
work.
you want to break the tie?
Let's say this time again. This was lovely.
Okay.
I love seeing you all in the afternoon.
2 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good. Well, we'll meet again in the week of the 22nd, 2 o'clock. I'll get stuff out to you and we'll get that steak beforehand. Okay. I guess meeting adjourned.
So moved.
All right. Unanimous. Bye, everybody.
All right, thank you,
Bye
everyone.
bye.
Bye-bye.